Welcome back to the Privacy Wayfinder. In this video, I'm going to talk about the best privacy, security, and battery life settings that you can make on your GrapheneOS device. I have 3 pages of notes, so let's just jump right into it. So let's go into Settings, Network and Internet, click on Internet, scroll down to Network Preferences, and you're going to want to ensure Turn on Wi-Fi automatically is off. So you never want your Wi-Fi to just automatically turn on and start sending any signals. Turn off Wi-Fi automatically should be set to a timer. So I like to choose 1 minute so that when I leave my home, after 1 minute of not having a connection to my Wi-Fi, Wi-Fi automatically turns off on my phone. But you can choose any other time that is comfortable for you, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it is. And notify for public networks, you'd want to set that to off. Let's jump back. So we'll continue to jump back. In Network and Internet, scroll down and go to Hotspot and Tethering. Click on Wi-Fi Hotspot. As much as possible, you want to make sure that Use Wi-Fi Hotspot is off. Next, it's probably recommended to change your hotspot name to something generic. Never use your name, so don't have your first last name as your hotspot name, because that would be broadcast out to the public if you have hotspot turned on. So just choose something generic. For security, you want to always have WPA2 or whatever your phone allows. Never choose none. You always want a password associated with it. And then choose a hotspot password that is secure. In the turn off hotspot automatically, ensure that that is on, so that after a period of time, if there are no devices connected, your hotspot will automatically turn off. Next, we're going to go to private DNS. Here, it's probably best to always choose automatic. That way, your DNS queries will always go through your default DNS provider. If you're using a VPN, it'll go to the VPN's provider, etc. And that way, if you're worried about fingerprinting, this will allow you to blend in better. However, for me, I like to use NextDNS as my DNS provider. So I have entered my DNS hostname into here. Next, go to Internet Connectivity Check. The default is GrapheneOS. You can keep it as that, or you can disable it. I've chosen to disable it, but between the first 2 options, use GrapheneOS. Same with Attestation Key Provisioning Server. I would keep this under the GrapheneOS proxy. Let's go back. Let's go to Connected Devices, Bluetooth Timeout. We want to choose a time. For me, I choose 1 minute. So if I have headphones connected via Bluetooth, after I disconnect the headphones, I don't need to manually turn off Bluetooth. It'll automatically turn off after 1 minute. Next, click on See All. And as you can see here, it says Bluetooth will turn on. That's okay, because we have the default set to Bluetooth timeout to turn off. So it'll turn off because nothing's connected after 1 minute. But what you want to do is, if you have connected devices, click on the wheel for each device and go through the permissions that that Bluetooth device has and turn off anything. So like contacts and call history, I've turned that off for my earbuds, but I do want audio and phone calls coming through my headphones. Let's jump back, go to Connection Preferences and Bluetooth. And what you want to do is turn Bluetooth on if it's off, and change your device name to something generic. Again, choose something that's non-identifiable. Don't put your name. I see that all the time. People put their first, last name. Don't do that. Just choose a name that's generic. That way, when Bluetooth is on, it won't be broadcasting out your name. Go back, choose NFC. And here we're gonna enable NFC temporarily so that we have access to the next setting, which is Required Device Unlock for NFC. So you want to ensure that this setting is on so that NFC can only be used when your device is unlocked. All right, now you can go back and turn off NFC. Last in this page, click on Printing and ensure Use Print Service is turned off. All right, we'll jump back all the way back to the settings page. Next, click on Apps and click on See All Apps and go through the settings for every app and deny as many permissions as possible. So for example, let's click on Aegis, or Aegis, however you say that. click on permissions, and what you want to do is make sure that everything is denied unless you need certain permissions. So for Aegis, I have no permissions because it's an offline TOTP generator. So look at permissions for the app. The other thing you want to look at is mobile data and Wi-Fi. In the background data section, you want to ensure that this is off unless your app needs it. So if you don't want your app running in the background, I would recommend turning it off. But if you have an app that requires background usage, I can't really think of anything right now, but if you have any of those type of apps, you can leave it on. But as much as possible, I would recommend turning that off. Let's go back to your app settings. At the bottom, click on Special App Access. Here, you want to go through each of these settings one by one and ensure that you restrict the access that your apps have for each of these settings. So for example, let's look at all files access. So if any app has requested this particular permission, it'll show up in this list, and you want to make sure that you restrict permissions as applicable. So all files access, I don't want Aurora Store accessing anything. I don't want my gallery. So I've set those to not allowed. So go through each one, especially some important ones like installing unknown apps. Here I just have Aurora Store and Droidify allowed to install apps, but any other app, I have it as not allowed. Same with Wi-Fi control. You can choose which apps can control your Wi-Fi. Usage access, if there are any apps who can access your usage data, you should probably restrict those. So let's jump back to settings. Let's go into notifications. And here you should consider sensitive notifications to be off. With this on, if your device is locked, sensitive communications will appear on your screen. So you want to make sure that that is off so that if your device is locked and it's in somebody else's hands, if you get a sensitive notification, that content won't show on the screen when it's locked. And then at the bottom, enhanced notifications, I like to set that off as well. I don't like any suggestions, additional replies, etc. So I turned that off as well. Let's go back to settings, choose battery. And here the only thing that I change would be battery share. I like to keep that as off. I don't want to use my phone's battery to charge any other devices, so I want to restrict that, so I turned that off. Let's jump back. We'll continue on to display. Let's choose lock screen. Choose privacy. Here you want to make sure that you either don't show notifications at all if you don't care about notifications, or choose show sensitive content only when unlocked. You don't want to show your content when your device is locked. The next setting here, add users from lock screen. You want to make sure that that is off. So you don't want any users to be added when your device is locked. Show wallet. If you have a wallet app on your phone, I'm guessing this would be applicable. Turn that off. Again, if your phone is locked, you don't want to allow access to your wallet. Scrolling down, control from locked device, I would recommend turning that off. And for me, the bottom three settings, tap to check phone, lift to check phone, both of those are off. And wake screen for notifications, that is off too. So if there's a notification that comes through, my screen won't turn on. Let's go back. In screen timeout, you want to choose a setting as low as possible. For me, because I record videos on my phone, I don't want my phone turning off all the time. So that's why I choose 10 minutes, but choose something like 1 minute, 2 minutes, something low so that when you're not using your phone, the screen automatically shuts off. Scroll down. This is a battery saving one, but smooth display, I like to turn it off. I do not game on my phone. I do watch YouTube content through NewPipe, but I really haven't seen a visual difference of having smooth display turned on with 90 Hertz versus 60 Hertz. That just might be my eyes. If you can see a difference, keep it on. But if you can't see a difference, turn it off and save some battery. Let's go back, scroll down, and next you're gonna wanna click on security. And under screen lock, you should have already set a PIN when setting up your phone, so that should be set. What you wanna do is click on the wheel next to it, and your lock after screen timeout, you should set that as immediately. So in a previous setting, when we said turn off our screen after X amount of minutes, at the same time, you want to ensure that once your screen turns off, that your device locks as well. So this is saying immediately when my screen times out, when it turns off, my phone will go into a lock state right away. And next, I like to have power button instantly locks on. So when I manually turn off my screen, my phone locks as well. Let's go back. Let's choose Pixel Imprint. It's going to prompt you to put in your password. And here, I know there's a lot of debate on using biometric fingerprint. So if you're a part of the camp who are not a big fan of fingerprint unlocking, turn this off. Do not set up fingerprint. Or if you don't mind fingerprint, then you can set up your fingerprint here. But there's also a middle ground here. So you could set up your fingerprint, but in this allow fingerprint unlocking section, you can turn that off so that if your phone is in the lock state, you can't unlock your phone with your biometric data. But if you have apps that let you log in using your fingerprint, your apps can still utilize the fingerprint unlocking. So turning this off, if your device is locked, you always have to use your PIN rather than your biometric. So I think this is a good middle ground. Let's jump back. Auto reboot. It's always good to have auto reboot turned on. This automatically restarts your phone, puts all of your profiles in a locked state until you unlock it. Here I have it to 12 hours, which means that if I don't touch my phone, it'll reset twice a day. But choose a time that's comfortable for you. USB accessories. Here, if you don't use USB accessories with your phone, choose deny new USB peripherals. However, if you do use USB accessories, then I would recommend to only choose the second option, which is allow new USB peripherals when unlocked. Enable secure app spawning, keep that on. Enable native code debugging, turn that off. And then pin scrambling, turn that on. Screen lock camera access, you should probably keep that off. All right, go back to settings, go to privacy, and go to permissions manager. And similar to the special app access step, you want to go through each of these and make sure that you deny or restrict permissions for any apps as much as possible. Next, camera access, turn that off, and microphone access, turn that off. These two are global settings. So even if your app has permission to use the camera or the microphone, if these two settings are off, they override any specific app permissions. So what I personally like to do is I like to have these controls in my quick toggles at the top. So if I scroll down with my finger, I got the quick toggles at the top. And I've set my quick toggles so that camera access and microphone access are readily accessible. So if I want to use my camera app, I don't need to jump through settings. I don't need to go through settings, come to privacy, click here. If I'm on my home screen, I just swipe down, I click on camera, and camera is now turned on and I can use my camera app. You can see by choosing that toggle, the camera access is now turned on. And I can quickly, from the quick toggles, turn it off, and you can see camera access is now off globally. Also, this here is a good visual. Every so often you can swipe down and see, okay, yes, I can confirm my camera and microphone access is off globally. So I know there are no apps that can use that function. Next, allow sensors permission to apps by default. I like having this off. By default, it is turned on so that any app you download will have the sensors permission on. So I like to turn it off so that whenever I download an app, it's automatically off, and I like to treat it the opposite way. If I then need it, then I can manually turn on sensors for that particular app in the specific app permissions. Save screenshot timestamp to EXIF. You should keep that off to eliminate as much metadata as possible if you're taking screenshots. Show passwords, set that to off. So whenever you're typing a password, the character that you're typing won't appear. It'll just be the dots so that no one can see what password you're typing. Notifications on lock screen. If you click on that, the bottom two options are always best. So you can choose not to show notifications at all. That's probably the best. Nothing will pop up on your screen for anyone to see. But if you do want some type of notification, always choose show sensitive content only when unlocked. You never want to show any content when your phone is in the lock state. Show media on lock screen. So that should be off. So if you have a media player, that can't be controlled from the lock screen. All right, let's jump back. We will go to location, and here use location. You want to have that set to off. And same idea, I have location as a quick toggle. It's not part of my 4 toggles at the top, but I have to scroll down one more time to show all of my toggles. And location is here, right there. So again, I have quick access to turn location on or off. So let's scroll up. Since I turned it on from my quick toggle, you can see location is on. I'm going to turn it off from here, go back to my quick toggle. You can see it's now off. And adjust your quick toggles so that you can see this parameter quickly. In app location permissions, make sure your location permissions are set accordingly. Location services, click on that. We never want to give apps permission to scan for Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. So these two, I would recommend keeping it off. The description here, if you turn it on, it allows apps and services to scan for Wi-Fi networks anytime, even when, this is important, even when Wi-Fi is off. So if you don't adjust this, even if your Wi-Fi is off, there may be times when apps or services can look for Wi-Fi networks. So be sure to come in here and turn these both off. This supple, I'm not really sure. You can leave it as enabled, GrapheneOS proxy. For me, I turned it off. I don't use navigation, so I'm guessing this might impact navigation a bit more. But if you do need it for navigation, keep it on the GrapheneOS proxy. Let's jump back. We're almost there. Passwords and accounts. Here, just ensure that automatically sync app data is set to off. For me, I don't like when apps have the ability to automatically refresh data. I don't need data to be refreshing constantly in the background, and this will help with battery life as well. So ensure that that is off. Go back, go to System, click on Languages and Input, and click on On-Screen Keyboard. If you have multiple keyboards installed on your phone, you're going to see a list of all of those keyboards here. There are some keyboards that are actually invasive to privacy, that have internet access, can send out data, can send out anything you're typing. So what you should do is click on the keyboard one by one and go through all of the settings to ensure you restrict access to the keyboard as much as possible. Continue back to System, go to Date and Time. If you want to restrict your phone making requests for time, you can turn this off. However, if you have a TOTP app like Aegis, I would probably recommend keeping it on, because if your phone ever gets out of sync with time, your TOTP codes might not generate correctly. And you're going to wonder why you can't get into your account. TOTP is time-based, so it needs to have accurate time in order to generate accurate codes. Going down, set time zone automatically. I have that off, and I'm setting the time zone below manually. Okay, let's go back. System update. Here, I would recommend keeping your release channel as stable. You could choose to be part of the beta or alpha program. However, stable is always the best. It'll only update your phone once a stable release comes out, so you won't really have too many bugs. Automatic reboot at the bottom, I have that as on, so whenever there's a new update, my phone automatically reboots and installs the latest software. Let's go back. And the last setting, click on multiple users. Here, if you have multiple profiles, go through each profile, and if you don't want phone calls, SMS coming through to profiles, turn that off. Best to restrict as much here as possible. So you can disallow installing apps from a profile, disallow installing apps from third-party sources. I have that off for this particular social media profile. But go through each profile and adjust accordingly. If you allow a guest to use your phone, which you probably shouldn't, but if you do, you should use the guest user profile feature. And in that case, you should enable delete guest activity so that whenever you exit guest mode, all apps data associated with that guest will be deleted. So turn that on. Add users from lock screen. Again, we don't want anything happening when our phones are locked. You should turn that off. And finally, send notifications to current user turn that off as well. I like to have my profiles as separated as possible. I don't want notifications from different profiles coming into the profile that I'm working on. That's just me. I'm pretty sure there's no data sharing there. It's just a notification. But for me, I like to have it off, and I just want to get my notifications when I'm in a particular profile. And that is it. Those were all of the settings. Again, it was a long one, but I just wanted to go through all of the different options for you to consider. And I hope this video brought value to you. Let me know in the comments if you have any other specific settings that you change and that you do differently. Thanks for watching.